Edgar Jimenez Lugo was just 14 years old when this video was filmed. Jimenez Lugo is known by the nickname El Ponchis.
Imagine a world where teenagers are recruited as a hitman by the world's deadliest cartels. It's a horrifying reality that these young hitmen had to face.
Young men by the name of Rosalio Reta and Gabriel Cardona. And their story is a cautionary tale, incredibly frightening and disturbing on many levels.
In this video, we'll dive into the shocking stories of these young assassins, whose lives took a dark and violent turn at a staggeringly early age. Warning: this case contains very graphic descriptions of extreme violence and murder. You have been warned. Number 15. Jesus Ernesto Chavez Castillo, former hitman. Jesus Ernesto Chavez Castillo testified that he has had about 800 victims, but the number is probably much higher. He's lost count. Jesus came into the spotlight when he defected from his cartel and decided to testify against his former boss, Arturo Gallegos Castrellon. Since Jesus and Arturo have been off the streets, the murder rate in Juarez has fallen dramatically. By the time of his former boss's trial, Jesus was only 32. Jesus and Arturo were part of the Barrio Azteca gang, a mafia-style criminal empire that was established in the late 80s in El Paso, Texas, and still in operation today. They are known for their involvement in narcotics trafficking, extortion, kidnapping, and other acts of violence. Number 14. Rita Benegem. Rita Benegem was born on March 27, 1991, in Amsterdam, Netherlands, and tragically met his end in an alleged revenge killing on March 16, 2013, in the same city. He was a Dutch hitman of Moroccan descent associated with the Mokro Mafia organization led by Benaouf. As a teenager, Rita began engaging in violence as a form of self-protection and as a way to prove himself capable to his peers. Throughout his criminal career, he was responsible for the deaths of 4 individuals, including 2 during the Mokro War in 2012 that occurred between rival criminal organizations. Despite being a high-priority target for the Dutch police, and not to mention the youngest person ever to be on the most wanted list in the Netherlands, Benegem managed to evade capture with each robbery or assassination. According to records, Benegem was fatally shot in Amsterdam on March 16, 2013, at the age of 21. The identity of his assailants remains unknown. It is believed the hit on Rita was an act of revenge by a rival gang. Number 13. Sandra Avila Beltran.
Sandra Avila Beltran.
She's known as the Queen of the Pacific because she allegedly controlled drug routes connecting Colombia to Mexican coasts.
Sandra Avila Beltran proves that cartel work isn't just a boys' club. Better known as Queen of the Pacific, she was born into a family heavily involved in organized crime. Her uncle was a prominent figure in the Guadalajara cartel, which controlled much of the movement of drugs between Mexico and the U.S. during the 80s. Since the cartel life was pretty much all she knew, combined with a desire not to be overshadowed by the men in her family, she began working in the industry when she was only 19. During the 2000s, she became widely famous for her fearless attitude and business smarts in the drug trade. She was soon accused of being a key intermediary between the Sinaloa cartel and Colombian drug cartels, facilitating the transportation of huge amounts of illegal substances all over the world. She remained free and able to work as she pleased for a relatively long time until her arrest in 2007. Knowing she was caught, she pleaded guilty in 2013 after reaching a plea agreement. Today, Sandra lives with her son and no longer participates in the drug trade. Number 12. La Flaca. Jocelyn Alejandra Niño, known by her alias La Flaca, the skinny one.
Cartel organizations had evolved out of the Guadalajara cartel, but the Gulf cartel is really an exception to that.
Was a suspected Mexican assassin associated with the Gulf Cartel, a criminal organization based in Tamaulipas, Mexico. She rose to prominence on social media on January 5, 2015, when an anonymous individual shared a picture of her posing with a firearm on an organized crime leak page. The post identified her as a member of the Gulf Cartel operating in Rio Bravo. As a foot soldier, her primary role was to defend her Gulf Cartel subgroup, Los Ciclones, against rival factions such as Los Metros. It is not known how many people she has taken out. On April 13, 2015, La Flaca was discovered deceased in a dismembered state inside an ice cooler at a parking lot in Matamoros, Mexico. Her body exhibited visible signs of torture. She was positively identified by a distinctive tattoo on her forearm bearing her surname, Nidio. A written message at the scene indicated that she had been killed by Los Metros. Number 11. Santre Sanchez Gale. Dubbed at the time for being Britain's youngest hitman, Santre Sanchez Gale was arrested at age 16 in 2011 for murder. He was sentenced to 20 years for the homicide of Gulistan Subasi. Santre went to her home in the middle of the night and fatally shot her on her own doorstep. Santre was hired to execute this horrific crime by a 22-year-old gang member, Isaac Billy. He allegedly told Santre he would pay him about $20,600 for the hit. The shooting was captured on CCTV footage, eliminating any chance Santre had of avoiding prosecution. The victim, Gulistan, was survived by her young son and her mother, who were inside when she was killed. Santre was jailed for life and must serve a minimum of 20 years. Isaac Billy was also convicted of murder, was given life, and must serve 22 years. Number 10. Gabriel Cardona. Also known as Napoleon, Gabriel Cardona was a Mexican-American young man who also worked for the Gulf Cartel. Beginning in his teen years, he was an infamous figure in the realm of Mexican drug trafficking. He rose through the ranks within the group, quickly becoming their trusted operative and hitman. Additionally, he was also known for being an expert smuggler from Mexico to the U.S. Gabriel Cardona and Rosalio Reyta seem to simply have been primed from birth as the perfect targets for this type of work. Some other kids who came from broken homes saw the cartels as an opportunity to escape from their situations and make money quickly. Gabriel Cardona and Rosalio Reyta were not only partners in crime, but they also were arrested together. Number 9. Raul Meza Torres. For people like Raul Meza Torres, organized crime runs in the family. His father was Raul Meza Ontiveros, one of the heads of the Sinaloa cartel, one of the most powerful and notorious drug trafficking organizations in Mexico. Raul Jr. started working within the cartel when he was only 15 years old because his father expected him to. Additionally, Raul Jr. was in the habit of posting pictures on social media of him posing with weapons. Many young people in Mexico who followed Raul began aspiring to join cartels as a result. Raul unfortunately did not live past 18. Together with an accomplice, he was pulled over for a traffic stop, and when they pulled weapons on the police, there was a shootout. Raul was fatally wounded and passed away in the hospital the following day. During the shootout, Raul took the life of one of the police officers that pulled them over. Number 8. Mariam Abiola. A young Nigerian woman, Mariam Abiola, has shocked the world with her troubling testimony to authorities in 2018 about her involvement as a hitman in a cult.
I am 20 years old. I came from Abeokuta.
When Mariam was a preteen, she ran away from home and found a job with a member of the Aya cult of Logos, Mr. Sodic. Her job was to carry out hits for the violent group that also smuggles illicit substances. After completing her training alongside two boys about her age, they were each given their own firearms and assignments. When Miriam finally left the group and confessed her crimes, she was only 20 years old. During her time with the group, Miriam claims to have killed 4 people in total, all of them hits given to her by Mr. Sodic. She said, "Brother Sodic usually showed us the target's house. We go to the house at night. The 2 boys will scale the fence and open the gate for me. We go straight to the apartment and shoot the target at close range. None of our targets survived. I don't feel bad after killing anyone because I see it as a job I am being paid for." Number 7. Rosalio Reyta.
Young men by the name of Rosalio Reyta and Gabriel Cardona. And their story is a cautionary tale, incredibly frightening and disturbing on many levels.
Rosalio Reyta was recruited by the Gulf Cartel when he was a teenager. Known as Bart, Rosalio was responsible for several murders with his accomplice, Gabriel Cardona, whom we will discuss shortly. Some of the pair's victims have been rival gang members, and some were even innocent bystanders. The 2 teens became well known for their brutal attitude and the specific weapon they used to carry out their crimes. They used high-powered rifles and impressed their bosses with their accuracy. In 2006, Rosalio was arrested in Texas. The U.S. and Mexico had no choice but to unite forces in a joint operation to find these two. Once he was arrested, Rosalio cooperated with the police. As part of his plea agreement, Rosalio provided detailed testimony regarding his involvement with the cartel. Because of him, other members of the cartel were tracked down as well. Number 6. Edgar Valdez Villarreal. Growing up, Edgar Valdez Villarreal's football coach nicknamed him La Barbie. As a Mexican-American, Edgar had blue eyes and very fair skin, which inspired this nickname. He started by growing and selling marijuana, and eventually became involved in the drug trade on a larger scale, working his way up through the ranks of various criminal organizations. He became known for being absolutely ruthless, and would often be tasked with kidnapping, torture, and murder of rivals and enemies of the group. Edgar was arrested in 2010, when he was in his 30s, after having been with the cartel for years. His capture was seen as a significant blow to the cartel. After his arrest, he was extradited to the U.S. to face his charges. During the investigation, he cooperated with the authorities and provided a lot of information on the inner workings of the cartel he worked for. Currently, he is serving a 49-year sentence in Florida. Number 5. Antonio Acosta Hernandez. Antonio Acosta Hernandez, also known as El Diego, was a trafficker and hitman for the Juarez cartel, one of the largest cartels in Mexico at the time. Antonio joined the group young and was rumored to have been directly involved with around 1,500 murders by the time of his arrest. He rose to act as a prominent figure within the cartel quickly. One of the most notable incidents associated with Antonio is the killing of a U.S. consulate employee and her husband in 2010. This attack shocked the world and drew a lot of attention to the violence caused by Mexican drug cartels. Mexican authorities launched a large-scale operation to capture Antonio. He was arrested in 2011. Afterwards, he was extradited to the U.S., where he faced charges on various crimes. He pleaded guilty to racketeering, narcotics trafficking, money laundering, and 7 counts of murder. Number 4. Alfonso Trujillo. Alfonso Trujillo is a little different because he didn't work for a cartel, but the Gambino crime family in New York City. The Gambino family is one of the 5 major Italian-American mafia families in the city. Alphonse grew up hearing about his extended family and their work. He became involved at a young age and quickly rose through the ranks. He was considered a rising star of the family, and his criminal activities attracted the attention of law enforcement. In 2009, he was indicted along with many other members of the family as part of a huge racketeering case. The charges brought against him included murder, gambling, money laundering, and loan sharking. The year after his arrest, Alphonse was convicted and sentenced to serve 10 years. Number 3. Edgar Jimenez Lugo. Edgar Jimenez Lugo, known by the nickname El Ponchis, gained notoriety as one of the youngest hitmen working for the Beltran Leyva drug cartel, notorious for being ruthlessly brutal in their crimes. He was recruited when he was only 11 or 12 years old. As a hitman, he became involved in not just homicide, but trafficking and kidnapping with his work for the cartel. Edgar was particularly violent. He became well known in Mexico for his preferred method of execution, beheading. When Edgar was 14, he was arrested in Cuernavaca. His arrest garnered a lot of attention in the media because of his age. In Mexico, children are often not sentenced to criminal punishments, but rather rehabilitated and released back into the world. Because of this, Edgar was placed in a juvenile correctional facility. Number 2. Gakira Barnes. The case of Gakira Barnes gained a lot of attention due to the girl's age and her story prior to getting mixed up with the Black Disciples, a street gang in Chicago. When Gakira was younger, she was known as a shy girl in class. That all changed when Gakira started posting videos of herself waving firearms around and proclaiming to be a hida, a slang term for a female assassin in a street gang. She also dismissed rumors saying she had shot at people on the street, driven getaway cars for various drive-by, hid male gang gang members weapons for them. And even that, she had taken out targets like a hitman. Several organizations in Chicago, like Stop Killing Our Youth, tried to intervene on her dangerous path towards organized crime. She refused all efforts to steer her away from the gang, and then one day, she was killed. It's heavily believed that she was taken out by the Black Disciples themselves because she had become so arrogant and loud online, she was beginning to become a liability. Number 1. Richard the Iceman Kuklinski. Richard Kuklinski, better known as the Iceman, was born in 1935 in New Jersey. His criminal activities reportedly began in his early teens, when he started working as an enforcer for a local street gang. Over time, he became more and more involved in increasingly serious crimes, including contract killings. Richard's reputation as a hitman became more and more infamous as his preferred methods became more notorious. He claimed to have killed over 100 people with a variety of weapons of choice, firearms and poison usually. His nickname comes from his signature move of freezing the bodies of his victims in order to throw authorities off. During this time, it was much more difficult to calculate the time of death, so freezing would have been effective in hampering their investigations. Richard's criminal activities were pretty much unnoticed until he was arrested in 1986. After he was finally captured, he cooperated with the police. Richard has become a very famous figure in the world of organized crime and hitmen. That's all we have for today. If you never want to miss a new upload from us, be sure to check out our channel and watch more true crime videos. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you in the next one.